Good day, everyone. We are the group and presenters for the subject EL-106, and allow me to introduce to you the members of the group. First, we have Ms. Leo Virginia Porbo, Ms. Jamaica Canyon, Ms. Vanessa Asbar, and yours truly, Mr. Angelbert Amador. Each one of us is assigned to discuss with a respective task, and I will be the first one to present. So without any further ado, let's start our discussion. To begin with the learning objectives. At the end of this lesson, students will learn the following. First, identify the authors and how they defined literature. Second, determine the purposes, values, and benefits of teaching literature. Third, recognize literature as a significant human experience. Fourth, explicitly learn the frameworks to consider in teaching literature. And fifth, distinguish the literature competencies in English K-12 curriculum. Alright, now let's have the competency 1 entitled Recognizing the Teaching of Literature as a Significant Human Experience. As what Tiago Marcelo answered in Cora Forum 2015, literature is a living thing, something that moves the soul, makes it sing in wonder and awe. The text walks you through all the passion, despair, feelings, anger, love, hatred, and joy a human can experience. It's almost like being in the right committed relationship. You're caught up in it and it feels like magic. That's how he answered about literature. Now, aside from Marcelo, there are also famous authors who defined literature, and there are 5 famous authors. Number 1, Virginia Woolf. She said, literature is strewn with the wreckage of those who have minded beyond reason the opinion of others. Number 2, Oscar Wilde said, literature always anticipates life. It does not copy it, but molds it into its purpose. Number 3, Aristotle said, literature is an imitation of a sequence of events. It can be categorized and thereby understood according to the method of operation and execution of each category. Number 4, Laurie Anderson. She said, literature is the safe and traditional vehicle through which we learn about the world and pass on values from one generation to the next. Books save lives. And number 5, Salman Rushdie said, literature is where I go to explore the highest and lowest places in human society and the human spirit, where I hope to find not absolute truth, but the truth of the tale of the imagination of the heart. And that ends my part. Thank you for listening. And now let me give the floor to Ms. Leo Virginia Aporbo. Ms. Aporbo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amador. In the book entitled Philippine Literature from the Ancient Times to the Present, the Filipino authors and educators Del Castillo and Medina in 1964 said, literature is a faithful reproduction of life executed in an artistic pattern. It is an orchestration of the manifold but elemental experiences of man blended into harmonious and desired patterns of expression. From this, we can say that literature is life itself, with a significant human experiences as patches woven in artistry and harmony. Lynch Brown and Tomlinson 2005 in their book Essentials of Children's Literature recognized that reading literature will gain both personal and academic value for our learners. For person value, learners will attain enjoyment, imagination and inspiration, victorious experience, understanding and empathy, cultural heritage, moral reasoning, and literary and artistic preferences. Academic value includes improving reading skills, developing writing voice and style, learning content area knowledge, and promoting art appreciation. As future literature teachers, we must realize how important the study of literature is, including its varied forms and genres. Parkinson and Thomas 2000 in Cell 2005 has listed benefits of teaching literature in the language classroom. Number 1, provides cultural enrichment. This means that teaching literature promotes cultural understanding and awareness. Number 2, linguistic model. Provide examples of good writing, linguistic diversity, and expressive ranges. Number 3. Mental training. Train the mind and sensibility. Extension of linguistic competence. Stretch the competences of learners who have mastered linguistic rudiments. 5. Authenticity. Literature is a genuine linguistic material to be studied and read. 6. Memorability. Can be a memorized archive of linguistic usage. Rhythmic resource. Assimilate the rhythms of language. Motivating material. Engage with and motivate a learner to deal with subjects and themes of interest to the learner. Number 9. Open to interpretation. Serve as a basis for genuine interaction between learners. And last but not the least, convenience. This means that literature is a handy resource. The list can be summarized into 3 purposes and benefits of studying and learning literature: language acquisition, cultural competence, and real-life issues and experiences. It can be deduced that teaching literature will give learners an opportunity to enhance their language competence by identifying correct linguistic patterns and structures from these texts.
Hi, I'm Jamaica Quinion, and I am assigned to discuss the frameworks to consider in teaching literature. So aside from the English Language Arts Curriculum Framework, literature definitions, and benefits of literature, what are other considerations when teaching literature to our learners? Alright, let's discuss the frameworks literature that teachers consider when they teach various literary texts. So the first one is literary criticism theories. So these theories are schools of thoughts or style of analysis that gives the readers or scholars with another lens in viewing or in critiquing the literary text as a work of art in the product of the author. So by this theory, it helps our learners to find meaning in text, for example, stories and poems. It also helps us discover the things listed above in the books and the stories we read. It gives analysis to the reader that can be a tool to find meaning. So some literary criticism theories are the following. The first one is formalism, which it refers to a critical approaches that analyze, interprets, or evaluate the inherent features of text. So the second one is deconstructionism, which it follows the beliefs that objects have meaning because it has been defined as through language. So the third one is Marxism, which it applies political science and economics to the study of literature. The fourth one is feminism, which it aims to understand the nature of inequality and focus on analyzing gender equality and the promotions of women's rights. It has 2 basic premises. Number 1, women presented in literature by male writers from male point of view, while number 2, women presented writing of female writers from female point of view. So the fifth one is postmodernism, which it refers to the crisis in determining meaning and signification highlighted by post-structuralism and deconstruction. So the sixth one is the reader response criticism, which is simply a reader response to the literary text to which they were reading. While the last one is the psychoanalytic literary criticism. It refers to the literary criticism which in method, concept, theory, or form is influenced by the tradition of psychoanalysis. Let's proceed to genres, branches, and authors. There are many literature like fable, fairy tale, space opera, legend, slapstick, and western. So it depends on the text and the knowledge of authors so that it helps us future teachers to identify which will be appropriate to a certain period, location, genre, and set of language competences. For cultural and historical context, so historical context refers to the social, economic, political, and religious events that influence the writing of a text. It can help the reader better understand the overall meaning and text and its detail. For the models and approaches in teaching literature, it is an approach that teachers may employ when teaching and learning literary text. So these models can be attuned to the view and philosophy teachers have in literature and language learning. For the comprehension levels in reading literature, it guides the teachers to extract comprehension from learners according to the analysis of multi-level questions, from easy to complex. It is the ability to read text, process it, and understand its meaning. So there are 3 levels of comprehension: the literal, inferential, and of course, the critical. So literal, reading the lines, or a surface level or literal meaning has been grasped. Inferential, reading between the lines, and suggested or implied meaning has been grasped. Critical, reading beyond the lines. You are able to make analysis and personal evaluative judgments about it.
Hello guys! We're done discussing about the definition of literature, the purpose, values, and benefits of teaching literature, and the framework to consider in teaching literature. And now, for our last topic in this lesson, we will tackle about the literature competences in English K-12 curriculum. So, I am going to explain to you the nature of teaching literature in different level in high school. Let's start from grade 7 to grade 12. In grade 7 level, the teaching of literature will focus on Philippine literature. The teacher will help the students to discover literature as a means of connecting to a significant past, to describe different literary genre, and to identify the distinguishing features of proverbs, myth, and legends. In the remaining quarter, the class will discover the conflicts presented in the literary selection to resolve the conflicts. Moreover, they're going to identify the distinguishing features of revolutionary songs, poems, short stories, drama, and novels. And lastly, the teacher will going to explain the contribution of national artists for literature. In the grade 8 level, the teaching of literature will focus on Afro-Asian literature, wherein the class will describe and identify the notable literary genres such as poems, folktales, and short stories contributed by African writers, East Asian writers, Southeast Asian writers, and South and West Asian writers. Furthermore, they will also learn to appreciate literature as an outform influenced by nature and expression of philosophical and religion ideas. In the grade 9 level, the teaching of literature will focus on the Anglo-American literature, whereas the class will analyze literature as a means of enhancing the self, valuing other people and their circumstances in life, connecting to the world, and understanding the unchanging values in a changing world. Also, it teaches to identify the features of notable Anglo-American lyric, poetry, songs, sermons, poems, and allegories. In grade 10 level, the teaching of literature will focus on the world literature. The teacher will discuss to evaluate the literature as a source of wisdom or as a way of expressing and resolving one's conflicts, or between individual and groups, or between societies. In the senior high school, the topic is about 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world. In the first term, the teacher will focus to teach the learners in writing a close analysis and critical interpretations of literary texts. The learners will identify the geographic, linguistic, and ethnic dimensions of Philippine literary history from pre-colonial to the contemporary. However, in the second sem, the learners will need to study also the texts and authors from Asia, North American, Europe, Latin America, and Africa to explain their texts in terms of literary elements, genres, and traditions. Good morning, class. Good morning, Ms. Asabar. You can take your seat. So, are you guys excited for our topic today? Yes! Well, our topic today is all about literature. Are you guys familiar with this word? Huh? The word literature. Before I will go to discuss to you what is literature, can I ask someone to share a short idea or a short knowledge about literature? Can someone? Anyone in the class? I would like to answer Miss. In my own understanding, literature is a writing or a piece of verse to express ideas and interests. Thank you. I would also like to add Miss. For me, literature is a body of writings. From the word literary, it is related from the books and authors. That's it. Thank you. Very good, class. I can say that you have already a knowledge about our topic. All of your answers are correct. So, literature is a term used to describe written and sometimes spoken word. It is derived from the Latin word literature, meaning writing formed with letters. Literature most commonly refers to words of the creative imagination, including poetry, drama, fiction, non-fiction, and in some instances, journalism and song. Literature is related to the past. Why? There are main connection between literature and history or the past. It is because literature is used to report and represent history or the happenings before. That is why the two are intertwined with one another. In pre-colonial period, the literary forms are bugtong, epics, and myth. Can someone give me an example of works in these literary forms? Anyone in the class? Yes, Ms. Ross? Can I, Miss? Ibong Adorna is a mythical song that is comprised of narrative song and poetry. Thank you. Splendid, Ms. Ross. So, aside from the literary forms I have mentioned earlier, there are still tons of literary forms we'll need to discuss in our next schedule. Since we're running out of time, so I will give you an assignment, and that is for you to search and to know the other literary forms and to give an example of works in it. So that's it for today, class. So long and goodbye, everyone. Thank you.